afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr with me, your host, Imperial Dane. Today's topic is repairs and why they're actually important, Actually thinking a bit more about it than just, hey, my tanks are getting repaired or my light vehicles are getting repaired. That's nice. There's actually a lot to getting your repairs vehicle and generally getting them repaired fast. In fact, something I noticed in some matches, is just, a lot of people just, sticking about with a heavily damaged tank not fixing it, and just having one engineer squad or pioneer squad to do all the work. And the thing is, that's actually not very efficient. You might ask, well, why is it important to get my tanks repaired fast? One way to put it is, during the battle for Normandy, the commander of the 1st SS Panzer Corps, Seb Dietrich, would actually award his mechanics Iron Crosses because they're able to get the tanks back into the field faster, and that's kind of the point. The less time your tanks, are spending on the battlefield, the more of a waste of resource there, whereas the faster you can get them back into the battlefield, the more damage they can do, the more of an impact they can have. So in this regard, ensuring that your tanks are speedily repaired at all times and swiftly getting back into the field is actually really important and really good. Or we could sort of consider a bit more of a scaling thing, like, initially just want one engineer, a pioneer squad, to just fix up, say, a light vehicle or two, but once you get up medium tanks and heavier tanks, you kind of need two. Maybe depending on the situation, you might even need three just to get it faster done, because it's also not just, tanks being kept off the field. In most cases, you're using another unit to repair it, meaning that unit is also off the battlefield, which is kind of why stuff like the Oberkommand's repair pioneers are quite handy. Well, of course, you can speed it up nonetheless. That's still just a unit that's specifically dedicated to repairing, doesn't drop population, which of course is another element to it. And again, you just can't spam like a ton of pioneers, for example, because then you don't have population for anything else. So there are a lot of factors that are actually quite important in ensuring that your tanks, are properly maintained. You can essentially call it a logistical issue, balancing how many you have to repair, but of course still ensuring you got enough to do it fast enough, because again, say the longer time say a Tiger tank or a King Tiger, whatever, it's out the battlefield, again, it's just a unit doing nothing. It's a huge waste of resources. Plus, again, if you just got one unit repairing, that's one unit's going to be out of the field for ages as well. So the faster you can just get repaired, the faster you can free up a lot more, essentially, resources and troops to do stuff on the battlefield again. So in that regard, there's numerous reasons to why you want your units, repaired as fast as humanly possible and back onto the field as fast as possible. Of course, another thing to consider as well, of course, is how close to the battlefield you want to repair, because again, there's also time spent, going back and forth. But generally, don't want your stuff to be too close, because your opponent's going to be more likely to just try and dive after and destroy it. In particular, if it's a really valuable unit, they're going to be much more likely to just try and go for a dive to destroy. And of course, the further it is inside your territory, and then to get repaired, the better. So that's another factor to keep in mind as well when it comes to repairing your stuff and ensuring it is in working order overall. And of course, the Soviets also have stuff like self-repair. In fact, they can build, set over, repair stations. They can build several. So that way, you can just build a bunch and get your stuff automatically repaired, which is quite neat if you go for the third industry doctrine. And of course, the Americans have the advantage in that sense. Well, they can't get lots of the Technicam. They just pop all the vehicle crews together, but at the same time, they have less management. Plus, they don't have to withdraw units in most cases to repair stuff, since the vehicle crews can just do the stuff automatically. So that's also worth keeping in mind. But even then, for the Americans, it's not a bad idea to at least have a couple of other extra units in the reaction just to help with the repairs as well. So that way, expedite them even faster. But even then, just being able to auto repair a lot of the stuff is also quite a useful ability, and should not be taken lightly. Yet again, when you see a lot of players talking about Americans, they tend to not factor in just vehicle crews again can repair it themselves. But again, just being able to press a button, they fix it themselves, and usually at a reasonable pace, is actually in itself again pretty big, because it's just less management, and more importantly, you're not withdrawing any units to repair your stuff. So that's also worth keeping in mind. Again, different factions are, have different abilities, in terms of repairs. Again, the Oberkommand West with the Sturmpanzer can repair fast. They can, manage less with the Mechanized Regiment headquarters. Whereas the Soviets and the Wehrmacht, to a large degree, have to pull stuff constantly. Even the Brits, have some stuff there where they just have to, pull stuff back for repairs all the time. And again, have to withdraw units from the front line to do it. And of course, the Soviets can slightly leave it by doctrines, but the Wehrmacht in particular, and the Brits, don't really have anything there. Well, the Brits actually do to an extent, so it's basically the Wehrmacht that has it the worst when it comes to having to repair their stuff, because they don't get any shortcuts. But again, other factions can use it in some way, alleviate and of course improve their abilities just to repair the vehicles, and that way again, decreasing downtime in some cases, ensuring they don't have to withdraw troops from the front line. So it's always good to keep in mind that how many pioneers or engineers or whatever do you actually have on the front line, what other measures do you have to repair your stuff with, because if you just again ensure that your tanks are always rolling on the front line and not sitting back in the base, doing nothing, the better. Again, you should always try to aim having the least downtime for your tanks when they've been damaged, need to be prepared for repairs. If you can do that, you can genuinely find usually doing a lot better, because the faster your tanks on the battlefield, the more they can pressure, and particularly up against an opponent who's not doing a good job there. The massive difference just constantly having your tanks out compared to them who might just only have, you know, the tank out and roughly, you know, half the amount of time you need to spend on the battlefield can actually make a big difference against everything else they have. So it's actually a reasonably, you know, big thing, and a goal I think, you know, worth keeping in mind. It's not something that gets talked about a lot, but I do think it's, you know, vital to talk about, you know, how you repair your stuff and essentially setting up the logistics for it. So again, initially 1 is good, but long term you want 2, and depending if you've got a lot of tanks and some heavies, you want 3 pioneers or engineers or whatever, depending on your faction. If you start with self repairs, you definitely want to use that as much as possible. As the Americans, a single reaction squad just to assist your, you know, vehicle crews and repairing is actually a pretty good idea from time to time. Or you can just bunch them up next to each other and they'll just automatically, you know, switch around, you know, fixing up the vehicles that way, so that way you can just get it all fast, you know, back into the field. And of course, in that sense, it's also not a bad idea to just focus on one vehicle at a time, particularly in like a bad situation. Just having one tank back on the field can apply some pressure, though of course you should be careful about sending them straight to the, you know, middle of it, so they immediately get shot to bits and forced back again. So I mean, there are some further considerations there, but I always say focus on one at a time, particularly your focus, prioritize your more veteran vehicles, so again, they can march more quickly, get back into the field. Of course, if you're actually expecting to use them in larger formations, you know, try not to push it straight to the heat of it. Though again, if you have to, do it, but again, be mindful of the situation. If you can do that, I think you'll find yourself being able to do a lot more with your tanks and vehicles. You'll be able to use them a lot more than before, and again, you might even be able to just outpace your opponents in the tank area, because again, your tanks are just in the field more than theirs, and again, that's a big difference as well. Otherwise, you know, again, keep it this reasonable away from the front line, you know, so the opponent can easily just die for it. Some players will die for it, and of course you can just make it as possible difficult for them as possible. I mean, that's great. I mean, you might like to be able to destroy the stuff as they die for yours, and, you know, again, you then just don't lose yours. So, I mean, there are some things there as well to keep in mind. So hopefully this has been helpful to us, you know, looking to improve elements of the gameplay. And in this regard, again, just working on how you repair your tanks and vehicles can make a big difference. Again, like taking, you know, 3 minutes to repair a tank or taking 1 minute to repair a tank is like a big difference. Again, that's 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes a tank can do a lot of damage if well handled, or even, you know, 4 minutes or 5 minutes in some cases. I mean, again, depending on how big it is, it can take quite some time to repair it with a single unit. But again, pop 2 on it and it goes a lot faster. 3, even faster. So that's always something worth keeping in mind. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it has, you know, subscribe, like, share, comment, and of course you subscribe, press the bell right next to the subscribe button. And if you like what I do, consider donating or pledging on Patreon as well. You can support me. This is Imperial saying cheers. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you all another time for another video. Cheers.